correct eye to snap the... Let's start with this one.
Leftwards.
Turn it off.
That it can't break. The bullets, they tie a small rope around the baby's leg,
Baby
tight
elephant.
enough that it can't break free. Now, the elephant pulls and tugs for days, but the rope holds tight. Eventually, the baby gives up. But once the elephant is fully grown, they still tie it up. And even though it's now strong enough to snap the rope with ease, it doesn't. It stands there, bound up like it was when it was young. You see, it still believes that the rope is stronger than him. Meaning, what's holding it back isn't the rope, it's just the belief that breaking free is impossible. They tie a small rope around. The bullet spins fast as it's shot out of the rope.
It's either because they
If it
can't
hits the
or because
frozen
it is
lake,
illegal.
the hard, icy surface stops it almost immediately. But the impact creates heat, melting a tiny thin layer of water beneath the bullet. This makes the ice super slippery, with almost no friction. And if it lands upright, that spin helps it stay balanced. So instead of tipping over, the bullet can actually stand up. The bullet spins fast.
Okay, that was super boring.
Tears of blood. The
Whoa,
bullet
what?
spins. She cried tears of blood when she woke up from surgery. You see, she was supposed to have work done on the left eye, but the doctor had operated on the wrong one.
Whoa.
Realizing the mistake, he pulled out a needle and injected it into the correct eye.
She was awake?
Then he grabbed a pair of scissors, and without gloves or proper tools, he started
anything else right
cutting.
now, buddy?
She screamed for him to stop, but he ignored her. And when it was over,
He's on
she
her
was
bed in
left
her
with
bare in his
permanent
bare feet.
damage to both eyes. She cried tears of blood when she woke up
Look at him
from
hovering
surgery.
over her in his bare
You see,
feet
she
like a
was
monkey.
so good. And realizing
Dog.
the
Here he
mistake,
comes.
he pulled out a needle and injected
That
it into the
dog.
correct eye. Then he
Why-
grabbed a
why
pair of
was he
scissors.
still awake?
Without gloves or proper tools,
There he goes.
started
Gonna hover
cutting.
on her bed
She
like a monkey.
screamed for him to
I
stop.
love they
but he
censored
ignored
it.
her.
Look
And
at
when it was over, she was left with permanent damage to both eyes.
Rude.
She painted one canvas a day, and each one sold for thousands online. One day, an investor approached her. He asked her why she only did one painting a day. She told him she liked to paint casually in the morning and spend the rest of her day gardening and taking care of her cats. He ran the numbers, showed her what she could earn if she painted 5 a day. That was more than she needed. She asked what she would do with all that money. He told her she could hire assistants, scale the whole thing, 10 paintings a day, maybe more. He showed her an even larger number. Again, she asked what she would do with all that money. Then he showed her
Buy
the
more
real
cats.
plan, a studio, a team of artists, a system that produced 100 paintings a day. She would be rich. He could see it clearly. A thriving business, maximum profit. She asked what she would do if she was rich. He explained it to her carefully. With that kind of wealth, she could do anything. She could
That's so
casually
true.
paint when she wanted to. She could garden in the afternoons, spend time with her cats, whatever she wants. She agreed that sounded like a beautiful life, and he finally realized that she was already living it. She painted one canvas a day, and if you swabbed the inside of your belly button and placed it into warm milk, the microbes
That was
inside
gonna eat
the
it.
milk
Why?
would start breaking the milk down, which would
Don't
turn
say
it
milk.
into cheese. Now,
And
if
Dutch?
hundreds of people donated their body bacteria for this, there would be enough to stock an entire deli
I don't
case
think I
with
wanna
this
eat cheese
gunky
anymore.
cheese. But you probably wouldn't want to eat it because it'll smell exactly like the person it came from. If you swabbed the inside, if you
Donated
wake
by
up
Bob.
in a morgue freezer, the low temperatures will kill you in just a few hours. To escape, feel around the door for a latch to open it from the inside.
Oh.
If it doesn't have one, look for any equipment that was left in there with you.
I would have a heart
Wedge it
attack from
between
that
the door
frozen
and the
squeeze.
frame to try and pry the door
It'd be so
open.
cold.
If this doesn't work, kick hard against the refrigeration vent in the ceiling. Once it breaks through, it will stop the fan from cooling the freezer, keeping you warm enough until someone finds you. If you wake up
Gosh.
in a the bird dips its beak into the water, and the fuzzy
I think we've
fabric
seen
on
this,
its
haven't
head
we?
gets wet. As the water evaporates, it cools the top bulb, which causes the gas inside to shrink. This lowers the pressure in the head, while the bottom bulb, warmed by air, keeps higher pressure. and this pushes a liquid up through a tube toward the head. As the liquid rises, the weight shifts, and the bird tips forward. The head dunks again, re-wetting the fabric.
Boring.
Poop dropped on the assassin as he
we've seen
waited
this.
beneath the toilet, ready to attack. He had climbed up the
they
toilet
stabbed
chute,
him in
which
the foot?
emptied outside.
Oh,
Remember that?
yeah.
And to go deep into his shorts, like.
Wait.
As he reached for his money,
Nope. We saw that. Oh, man.
It's okay, let's just go to shorts and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Blah.
there was one thing I saw. Oh, my.
Nope, I know what I want to do.
Itchy. Okay.
Oh, are you talking to me?
Mm-mm.
If you cut off a dead person's finger, you might think you could use it to unlock their phone, but the sensor actually checks for the body's natural electricity, and this stops when a
No
person
way.
dies, making the finger useless. Now, if you tried to use the corpse's face to unlock it, the sensor would look for slight movements to make sure it's a real living person, but it would quickly notice that they're dead and you'd still be locked out. If you
And
when
then
a
the cops would
dentist
come.
gives you a shot, the needle can sometimes bend and snap during the injection. If this happens, the broken piece might stay lodged in the soft tissues of your
Cool,
mouth.
Zack, cool.
Over time, the tissue around it might swell or become
Oh, that's so
infected
cute.
if the piece isn't retrieved. To remove it, dentists can use imaging tools and a small surgical procedure to carefully extract the needle. When they were placed on the soles of the agent's boots, secured with a sturdy strap. The overshoes disguised their footprints, making it appear as if they were someone else. Some soles mimicked the prints of civilians, or even animals like bears.
Oh,
When they
that's
were
kinda
worn backwards,
smart.
it reversed the direction of their
Oh.
steps. This made it impossible for enemies to identify their footprints and follow their trail. They were placed on the soles of the agent's boot. The logs in the center of the tower began to groan, leaning sharply under the enormous weight. Then, the wires holding the structure together snapped, sending the entire tower crashing down. Students were hard at work building it for their school's cherished celebration when disaster
it?
struck. Trapped beneath 5,000 logs, many were unable to escape. Rescuers raced to save them, but tragically, 12 students lost their lives. The child was put in a wicker basket and hoisted up to the ceiling as punishment, and they had to spend the rest of the lesson hanging above the classroom. Now, this was
Why?
meant to humiliate them and to scare the other children into behaving. Sometimes the teacher would even push it, making it sway back and forth as extra punishment. But the basket was small, and if it moved too much, the child could easily fall out. The child
And
was put
die?
in a wicker basket.
Okay, here you go. I did all the things we need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He picked up the penguin, which was covered in sticky black oil, and took it home to clean it. Over the next few days, he fed it fish and nursed it back to health. He picked up the penguin, which was covered in sticky black oil, and took it home to clean it. Over the next few days, he fed it fish and nursed it back to health. But when he went to set it free, the penguin followed him home. Even after it finally left, it returned a few months later. And for the next 8 years, it swam 5,000 miles every summer just to visit his human
Oh my
friend.
goodness.
He picked up the penguin, which was covered in sticky black oil.
Look,
and
it's
took
not
it
letting me
home
go. Is
to
it
clean
done?
it.
Are they
Over
done
the
with
next
them?
few
That wasn't all of his videos. I know that. What if we just go popular?
When you get stitches, a doctor threads a needle through your wound and pulls it tight to close the skin. As the stitches hold the edges together, the wound becomes inflamed as new cells begin to repair the
that
tissue.
hurt so bad?
Afterwards, connective tissues and collagen start to create skin. Then, blood vessels form to nourish these developing tissues, filling in the area. And over a few weeks, the wound will have have healed together and the stitches are removed. When you get stitches, a doctor threads. If you get a splinter, most
Ouch.
people just go ahead and pull them out. But sometimes they get lodged so deep into your skin that you can't reach them. If the area gets infected, it will start to swell as pus forms under the skin. This creates pressure around the splinter that can sometimes push it upwards towards the skin's surface. And if you're lucky, after a certain period of time, your body could have completely removed it from your skin. If you
If
get a
you're
splinter,
not lucky,
have you
you'll
ever
have
noticed how
light bulb
odd the
filaments stuck in your foot
McFlurry spoon is?
forever.
Well, some people think it's supposed to work like a straw, but you only have to try that once to realize
That's
it
Zack.
does not work. The true reason for these weird spoons is actually pretty genius. You see, McDonald's
This is
didn't
back when
want
I
to
was
clean
doing
their
big
beers
animations.
after every
Oh, yeah.
McFlurry. So instead, they designed a spoon that would also work as the mixer. Have you ever noticed how odd the McFlurry
Hey, you said this
spoon
already.
is? If you shot a bullet at
No.
if you somehow removed all of the blood vessels in your body and tied them together,
would die.
you might think it would be about this long. But the human body
stuck
has
within my feet.
thousands of these tiny vessels that weave in and out of every body part. And with all of them combined, if you started in New York, your blood vessels would make it all the way to the Grand Canyon. It would go on to reach all the way across the Pacific Ocean, over Japan, Asia, and all of Europe. And not only would it make it all the way back to your starting point, but it would be able to make this trip 2 to 4 times over. If you somehow
I would
removed
hang
all of the blood
like
vessels,
a metal thing on them and ride it around the blood vessels around the world.
when a doctor gives you a shot, they can sometimes accidentally push the needle all the way through
Yeah, doctors
your
don't
vein,
give you shots.
which ends
Nurses
up
give you
puncturing
shots.
both sides.
This is why
Once
you
the
don't let
needle is
doctors give you
removed,
shots.
it leaves 2 holes in the vein. And before the body can
Called an
thicken the blood
infiltration.
and seal these holes, it bleeds into the surrounding tissues. This leaked blood
Also
forms
back when
a
I did
dark,
make
tender
animations.
area under the skin,
And that was an
creating
artery, not a
bruises
vein.
and splotchy areas. When a doctor
Zack, I need to
have you
talk to
ever
you.
wondered how this trick is done? It's one of those things where you know he can't actually be making the salt disappear, but it's still confusing to look at. Well, it turns out that the simplest explanation is the right one. Look closely at his hand during this shot. Do you notice how he sort of grabs his thumb here? Well, this is because he's using a prop called a Dofi finger. He holds it in his fist like a cup, fills it up with the salt, gets it onto his other thumb, and then grabs it off his thumb back into the first position.
Whoa.
Watch it again and see if you can notice. Have you ever wondered how this trick is done? It's one of those things where you know he can't actually be making the salt disappear.
Well, he did it
but
so
it's still
quick, too.
If you lose one of your adult teeth, the bone where the tooth once was can start to deteriorate. To prevent further damage, a dentist will fill the cavity with a synthetic material that mimics real bone. Once filled, a metal bracket is secured on top and the incision is closed. After the graft has healed, a large implant post is inserted into the new bone. Then a small metal piece is screwed in and a
It hurts,
porcelain
stop.
tooth is secured on top. If you accidentally touched a table saw, you'd probably think
out of
your
10.
fingers would be cut off. But this isn't always the case. You see, some modern high-end saws
Just
actually
shut up.
know the difference between wood and your skin. Once your finger comes in
Jackson taught me
contact
this.
with these special saws,
Yeah,
it
Jackson.
immediately detects the electrical
My son taught
conductivity
me
from
this.
your skin. This triggers an
What if they think I'm
immediate
still
mechanical
talking about me?
response that stops the
oldest
blade
son.
in less than 5
What if they think that
milliseconds.
I'm your oldest
The
son?
son
If you
that's older than your son
accidentally
is with
touched
me.
a table
Okay,
saw,
yeah,
when a
sure.
honeybee stings a human, they actually get stuck for a while and can't leave.
Oh.
And this is because their stinger is barbed, which means it can't retract once it's lodged into something. But once the bee
If it was
finally
worth it,
pulls
bee.
away, its insides get ripped out because the stinger stays in the skin. This leaves the bee without some of its internal organs, resulting in its death. When a honeybee,
Now I
have
hope
you ever
the bee that
wondered
bit me
about
when
this
I was
little dangly
when I
thing
was,
at the
like,
back
a
of your
baby.
throat? Well,
Like a
even though
wasp.
it looks like a miniature punching bag, it actually serves a handful of important functions. You see, when you swallow food, this thing called a uvula actually swings backwards to prevent the food from going up your nose. It's also constantly producing saliva to keep the throat moist, which aids in swallowing. And because there's a tiny muscle inside the uvula, it can move around, which helps you speak. Have you ever wondered about this little dangly thing? If you're trapped in the trunk of a vehicle, you should immediately start searching for the glow-in-the-dark release hatch. If you don't see the latch, don't panic. Trunks are not airtight, so there's no risk of running out of oxygen. Try feeling around the edges of the trunk for a handle. This may allow you to release the seat back. As a last resort, kick out one of the brake lights. This small opening will allow you to signal for help. If you're trapped in the trunk, imagine waking up in a coffin and realizing that you were mistakenly buried alive. Now, this wouldn't happen with the medical guidelines we have today. But in the 19th century, old coffins were found with scratch marks on the inside, making this a legitimate concern. So as a solution, they started adding strings inside the coffins that traveled up to the ground and were connected to a little bell. And if you woke up underground in a coffin, you could just ring the bell, signaling that you're still alive.
Just lie there calmly, ring the bell.
Imagine waking up. If you get a skin tag, some people think you can just rip them off yourself, but you actually shouldn't do this. You see, skin tags are connected to your body by a thin piece of tissue, and if you looked inside of it, the tag actually has its own nerves and blood vessels. Ripping it off would cause significant bleeding, and the open wound would be susceptible to infection. Instead, if you want them removed, a doctor can freeze them off with liquid nitrogen, which is a better option. If you're stuck in a water slide that's filling up with water, most people think they should try to climb back up. But the slippery surface makes this nearly impossible. Instead, focus on staying calm and try to create space for air by tilting your head back. If water keeps rising, use your hands to push yourself forward. If you can't move, brace yourself as the water fills the slide entirely. Once the pressure equalizes, you may be able to push forward and float to safety. If you're stuck in a water... Have you ever wondered why the letter E isn't used to grade? Teachers use A, B, C, D, and F, but they skip E. Why is this?
I know why.
The answer is actually pretty simple. You see, back in the day, schools did use the letter E, but in the 1930s, they decided to stop after students and parents thought that it meant excellent. It was quickly replaced with F, because F for failed made more sense. Have you ever The soldier's foot would break through a hidden bamboo slat and into a hole if they stepped onto a cartridge trap. Inside, a bullet was positioned on top of a nail that was fastened to a wooden board. And when the soldier's foot hit this shell, it pushed the nail into the primer. This caused the shell to suddenly explode and shoot back up at the soldier. The soldier's foot would, if you plucked out a single strand of your hair, it could hold about 40 pennies without breaking. But if you braid just half of all your hair into a rope, the combined strength could hold up a large SUV. And if you add in all of your hair into it, it could withstand about 15 metric tons, which is about the weight of a young gray whale. If you plucked a few days ago, I showed you how this trick was done, and I was wrong. This is how I originally explained it. Cane, base, rods, back brace, harness. All that's left for the magician to do is use his core strength to pull his legs up. Well, this magician, known as Special Head, left a comment on my TikTok. He also made a response video proving that my theory is wrong. There appears to be no base or harness. In fact, Special Head has some other videos online where he just touches someone's head and levitates. So what's going on here? What's the real explanation to this trick? The answer is that I have no idea. A few days ago, I showed you
Oh,
how this trick was done.
okay.
If you chip a piece off of your
I
tooth,
did that on
a
purpose.
dentist might shave down the surrounding
I want to see
area.
that again.
If you chip a piece off
With
of
a
your
hammer.
tooth, a dentist might shave down the surrounding area. Then a bonding material that matches your tooth color is applied.
That's
That
great,
does
sir.
not
Match
match
the original appearance. Once the shape is near perfect, a special light hardens the material, making it as durable as the tooth. Finally, the dentist polishes the tooth to blend it seamlessly with the others. If you chip a piece off of if you stepped on a World War II landmine, 3 prongs hidden just beneath the surface would immediately sense the pressure. This pressure would release a striker pin, activating a fuse. Then an initial explosion propels the mine upwards,
Right into
reaching
your
about
face.
waist height.
That's a
Right
In
into
the
your-
air, the fuse reaches the main charge inside, causing the mine to explode. The casing shatters, ejecting metal fragments at high speeds in all directions. If you touch a cactus,
Oh, I did that
you'll
once.
probably get the spine stuck
I
in your
remember
skin.
that.
And if you try to pull
I
them
did that
out,
twice.
you can actually break them off in your flesh because they're so fragile. So instead, you should apply a layer of glue over the
Brilliant.
area. Once
And
it is
fun.
dried, quickly peel it off in a smooth motion. This will pull out the spines evenly, causing them
Exploding.
to stay intact.
They
If
should have
you
given each
touch
other a thumbs up.
cactus, you'll probably. Do you notice something weird about how
Yes, I
when
know.
you
Piece of
use a
crap.
derma roller, it pushes a bunch of
You don't
tiny
know?
needles
I wanna read
into
about
your
this.
face, creating small punctures
reading.
across the
I mean,
surface.
no.
Your brain perceives these small holes as wounds, which triggers your body's natural healing response.
do this every day.
The body then sends out cells to make collagen and elastin, which helps your skin stay firm and stretchy. Over time, these cells strengthen the skin, giving a firmer and more youthful appearance. And if you swallowed a watermelon seed, some people
watermelon,
think
that's
that it
Melania.
could potentially sprout
Yep,
in
it
your
would grow in your
stomach,
belly.
meaning you'd literally be growing a watermelon
I swallowed
inside
so
of you.
many
Now, this
watermelons.
is
I know, me too.
obviously not true. Your stomach acid would dissolve the seed before it had time to grow. But there was a case of a man who swallowed a pea that ended up going down the wrong way. And
guy
months
did this
later,
with some-
after being rushed to
tree
the
seed,
hospital
too.
because of breathing problems, a doctor discovered that the pea had been ingested in the man's lung. And because lungs are warm and moist, the pea was able to split open and sprout into a plant.
Oh,
If you swallowed the army ant is placed on the wound and positioned so its jaws clamp tightly on the edges, securing them
No, thank you.
together. Then the ant's
I'll
body
take
is
stitches.
twisted off,
That's
leaving
rude.
its head and mandibles in place, which acts as a stitch. More are added depending on the size of the wound, and these ant
Why are we
stitches
doing
are
this?
left in the skin
Because they
until
don't have
the edges
stitches.
of the wound stay closed on their own. The army ant is
That
when
would
you
look
pump
pretty cool,
gas
though,
in your
having-
car,
It would,
There's
it
this
would.
tiny hole connected to a valve that sucks in air.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You know the equal sign in
Yeah,
math?
that one, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
back in
because
the
it's
day,
2 lines.
people actually
Yeah,
wrote
is equal to, but this one
instead.
mathematician
And
got
mathematician
annoyed,
Robert
and so
Cord
he's
was
put
getting
2 lines
tired
are
of
the equal
writing it
size.
over and over.
They're
So
equal
in
to each other.
1557, he started
Wow.
using 2 horizontal lines instead. He figured since the 2 lines were the same size, they were equal to each other, which made it the perfect symbol for equality. You know if an octopus loses some of its limbs and then somehow makes it back into the ocean, you might think it would die from the
No.
open wounds, but they have an ability that allows them to quickly seal the cut before it becomes
then grow
infected.
them back.
Once the wounds
Tired?
begin
Yeah.
to heal, new
don't have to
cells
keep
can start to
recording.
reconstruct
I love
the
you.
missing limbs. And
Goodbye.
after